A summons under the midnight sun. June 1942, Moscow's gray veil presses down upon a nation reeling from Axis advances. In the Ministry of Defense's echoing halls, Major Marina Raskova, already a celebrated record-setting aviator, presents an audacious proposal. Give us women. Let us fight. With steel in her voice and pilots behind her, she secures Stalin's permission to form the 588th Night Bomber Regiment. Raskova herself recruits women who had once soared in civilian air clubs and technical schools, young, untested, driven by the fire of survival and vengeance. The regiment's first days are a whirlwind of chaos and disbelief. The women are assigned to fly the Polikarpov P-2, a slow, wood and canvas biplane regarded by most as merely suitable for training or crop dusting. Some pilots, like Nadia Popova, who lost her home to German air raids, accept the challenge with steady resolve. Others, like navigator Yevdokia Brashenskaya, wonder how their frail machines could possibly survive in the crosshairs of anti-aircraft guns and night fighters. Disbelief gives way to grit in the barracks as the recruits practice endless engine repairs and barnstorming landings in the dark. Meanwhile, far to the west, von Richthofen's Luftwaffe squadrons barrel toward Stalingrad, and supply lines stretch ever thinner. Each day, dispatches announce the advance of panzers across the steppe. The Soviet Air Force, battered and depleted, waits for a miracle. In secret, beneath blackout curtains, the 588th's women study charts, rehearse emergency procedures, and sew their own uniforms, the air thick with anticipation and the distant rumble of war. First flight, into the shadow of death. Early September 1942, the order arrives, deploy to the southern front. Stationed near Stalingrad at Engels Air Base, the regiment is assigned missions most male pilots refuse, harassing enemy rear positions after dusk, where the night promises both concealment and mortal hazard. Their arms, bombs slung by hand, pistols for emergencies, and the ever-present P-2 biplane. Flight crews slip into the inky dark, each sortie carrying 2 bombs, a map, and courage their only shield. Nadia Popova and her navigator Rosa Shishkova huddle in their cockpit as wind whistles through fabric wings. The takeoff is shaky, the engines rattle. Below, the Volga glimmers with distant fires as the battle for Stalingrad swells. Above, searchlights will hungrily. The Germans, at first dismissive, consider the biplanes an annoyance. But as nights pass and explosions echo through sleeping camps, their contempt turns to dread. P-2s, flying so low the pilots can see enemy faces at campfires, cut engines to glide silently, a ghostly approach that earns the nickname Night Witches. Crews memorize escape tactics, at the first crackle of machine gun tracers, veer and dive. Several sorties end in near-miss disasters as anti-aircraft shells rip canvas or splinter struts. Yet not all are lucky. On September 19th, Irina Sabrova returns from a sortie with her plane riddled, Rose Shishkova's scarf soaked with blood from a grazing wound. Within weeks, the Night Witch's reputation spreads like wildfire, a howl of terror in the night, a new weapon the Wehrmacht cannot counter. Tactics of the witching hour. As autumn deepens, German night fighters adapt, prowling erratically and hunting the P-2s with ruthless efficiency. But the Night Witches innovate. They split formations, sending decoys to draw fire while true attack pairs circle wide. Some pilots invent the carousel, a swirling maneuver above heavy flak, forcing gunners to reveal their positions and then striking fast. Nadia Popova executes 16 missions in one evening, her hands numb with cold, her bomber's fabric skin rent by shrapnel. Still, she returns, greeted in the mess by exhausted cheers and mugs of black tea. Rather than cow them, hardship forges unity. Mechanics work by lantern to patch wings with cloth, scavenging spare parts from crashed aircraft. Navigators memorize terrain features by moonlight, rivers, orchards, village rooftops, and mark landing strips with kerosene lamps. The regiment's success hinges on surprise, cutting engines for silent glides, dropping bombs by hand, racing back into the starry sky before the German defenders can target them. Their sorties mount. Critical supply depots, artillery emplacements, and command posts catch fire in the darkness. The German 6th Army notes increasing losses, ammunition stacks upended, fuel depots burning, officers dead in their bunks. Reports filter back to Moscow, and the Night Witches, once a wartime anomaly, ascend to near mythic status among the Red Army ranks. Through it all, the toll on the women grows as well. Casualties mount, young lives wink out with shocking suddenness. Yet replacements, inspired by tales of heroism and vengeance, keep arriving, each convert learning, by necessity, the grueling art of nocturnal attack. Trial by fire, winter onslaught. December 1942, the Stalingrad encirclement tightens. The winter is merciless, with temperatures plunging below -20 degrees Celsius. The regiment, now hardened by months of relentless operations, is ordered to intensify sorties, aiming to sever the trapped German 6th Army's supply arteries. Night becomes their domain, moonless and frigid, each mission a test of endurance. Fatigue and cold are now deadlier than enemy fire. Pilots wrap feet in rags, cram newspapers into boots, and huddle before flickering stoves. Engines stall in the frost. Once over the front, restarting means praying and precise handling. On December 23, Olga Kravchenko's engine seizes mid-flight. She and her navigator glide, bomb doors open, ready to ditch behind enemy lines. Miraculously, they land in a snowy field and are rescued by Soviet infantry after 2 days of hiding. Yet, the attacks yield results. Cut-off German positions succumb more quickly as food and ammunition dwindle. Soviet generals, recognizing the psychological value of the Night Witches, increase their visibility. Radio broadcasts celebrate their daring. Medals arrive for the bravest crews. The regiment's commander, Yevdokia Brushanskaya, urges caution. Our war is in numbers, not in deaths. Survive, return, strike again. The women counter their hardships with humor and camaraderie, composing songs and sharing whispered dreams of peace. But each dawn brings new losses, a pilot missing, a crash on landing, a stick of bombs failing to drop. The sense of uncertainty only deepens their resolve. Crossing the horizons, a new front opens. Spring 1943, the tide of war shifts. After the Soviet victory at Stalingrad, the Night Witches are ordered west, their missions expanding to support the massive Kursk salient. The regiment redoubles efforts, launching sorties against armored columns rolling into Orel and Belgorod. They adapt their tactics, targeting bridges, disrupting reinforcements, harassing retreating Germans in the open fields of Ukraine. New pilots join, eager for action, their naivety quickly burned away by the realities of night combat. Training intensifies, simulators made from broken aircraft, parachute jumps at dawn, map exercises in candlelit huts. Berths are crowded, friendships deepening amid shared terror. Nadia Popova, now a veteran, takes younger flyers under her wing, teaching by example, her fearless demeanor masking the weariness that haunts her between missions. The 588th, its numbers bolstered, flies alongside newly formed women's regiments, the 586th Fighter and 587th Bomber. But the Night Witches remain the masters of the night. Each sortie writes new chapters of fear in German diaries and hope in Soviet ones. As ammunition depots burn and armored trains derail, the legend grows. Rumors swirl among Wehrmacht troops. These women, these witches, wield magic. How else could their bombs fall so often, so accurately, despite every defense? The bane of the Blue Cross. Summer, 1943, Operation Citadel launches on July 5. An iron tide is Germany's last great offensive attempts to crush the Kursk bulge. The Night Witches are tasked with disrupting supply lines supporting Tiger tanks and artillery. Each night, flak intensifies, German batteries crisscross the sky with tracer streams and searchlights, desperate to protect their armor. Tactics evolve further. Night Witch crews begin flying staggered approaches, one pair drawing AA fire, another swooping low for the bomb run. Navigators plot targets by faint moonlight, marking gun emplacements with candle stubs on acetate maps. Aircraft repairs happen right on the landing strips, as fresh sorties thunder into the dusk. On July 13, Nadia Popova and Irina Sabrova, flying their battered Patu, spot a train carrying replacement tanks and fuel. Creeping in at treetop height, they cut engines and drop their bombs with unerring precision. Flames erupt, columns grind to a halt. The German advance stalls not just by Soviet armor, but from the relentless scourge of attacks delivered nightly by the 588th. These successes come at a cost. Lydia Shulakina is downed by night fighters near Oral, lost behind enemy lines. Nadia returns with bullet holes stitched along her wing struts, her hands shaking. But each loss only galvanizes those left. Every story of survival and sacrifice spreads among Soviet women, luring more volunteers with tales of steadfast courage. In Berlin, Luftwaffe Command initiates the Blue Cross Defense, night fighters equipped with new radar, tasked specifically with hunting low-flying bombers. The Night Witches, undeterred, counter by dispersing and varying their flight routes, flying erratic patterns through the low haze, their presence more phantom than ever. Unity in adversity, a sisterhood forged. Late 1943, the regiment's fame grows, pulling it not only deeper into war, but onto the pages of Pravda and into Soviet war propaganda. Pilots' faces, tired yet resolute, are painted on banners. Songs are written about their daring, and their personal letters home inspire children and families across the USSR. But inside the 588th, the camaraderie is not mere myth. After sorties, bathing in tin cans and patching uniforms by candlelight, laughter and stories fill the night. Nadia Popova organizes chess tournaments amid the whine of distant artillery. Navigators scrawl jokes on bombs in chalk. The regimental doctor, Elena Malagina, invents folk remedies for frostbite, coaxing smiles from the weary. This unity becomes a shield against trauma. Many have lost loved ones. Rosa Shishkova remembers the air raids that destroyed her father's workshop in Rostov. Olga Kravchenko keeps a faded photograph of her brother lost at Leningrad. The women, deeply bonded, share not only missions, but grief. On October 6th, a night operation over Kremenchuk tests their resolve anew. Yevdokia Brzezinskaya orders a split-formation raid, targeting a heavily defended ammunition dump. A night fighter strikes Irina Sabrova's plane. Wounded, she lands in darkness, guided in by flares from her comrades. Such acts carve deeper the meaning of sisterhood, a lifeline in the chaos of war. Medals and mourning, recognizing valor. By November 1943, the Soviet High Command, recognizing the staggering tally of sorties, awards the 588th the prestigious status of the 46th Taman Guards Night Bomber Aviation Regiment, a rare honor. Nadia Popova, Irina Sabrova, and other elders of the unit receive the Order of the Patriotic War for their actions during the Kursk offensive, their medals gleaming against homespun uniforms. New responsibility arrives with this recognition. The regiment is assigned to spearhead assaults along the Dniester River, paving the way for the Soviet advance into Romania and the Balkans. Their targets grow larger, bridges critical to retreating German units, rail yards packed with tanks, ammunition trains running on borrowed time. Triumph walks hand in hand with grief. In December 1943, the regiment gathers for a memorial. Pilot Tatyana Makarova, age 19, killed in action while bombing a column withdrawing from the Crimea. Her letter, found among personal effects, is read aloud: "If I am lost, let my wings live for another." The pilots vow to honor all fallen comrades with every successful sortie. Behind the flying honors lies relentless work, rebuilding planes in mud, scraping engines for parts, training new volunteers in the art of guerrilla flying. The regiment cannot afford to stand still nor to succumb to despair. Every night must find its witch airborne, crossing into foreign skies. Spring 1944, the Red Army is on the move, driving west into Moldova, eventually crossing into Romania. The Night Witches follow, shifting their base to forward airfields, seldom flying twice from the same strip. Night after night, they harass German convoys withdrawing through the winding Carpathians, illuminating twisting roads with incendiaries and fragmentation bombs. The regiment's tactics become so unpredictable that German officers believe supernatural forces guide these attacks. How else can so many bombs fall precisely where they are least expected? Intercepted Wehrmacht diaries refer to hexes and female demons. The Night Witches are now legends among both their enemies and their own kin. In April, Irina Sabrova flies a record 18 sorties in one night over Targu Frumos. Her skin is chapped, her hands raw from cold, her uniform stiff with dried mud. Olga Kravchenko lands her P2 in a barley field, shivering as she hides from a Luftwaffe patrol. Crews are briefed for every contingency: how to evade capture, how to signal for Soviet partisans, how to survive if shot down. Logistics are hellish, fuel shortages plague every operation, and the unit often resorts to scavenging from abandoned enemy depots. Regardless, over 800 sorties are flown in a single month. The advancing Red Army claims village after village, the women in their battered planes ever ahead, shrouded in legend and smoke. Homeward shadows, the long retreat unraveled. Summer-autumn 1944, the 46th Regiment drives deeper into the Balkans, aiding partisan offensives in Yugoslavia and providing critical bombing support ahead of Soviet ground advances. They attack well-defended German infrastructure, railway lines outside Belgrade, bridges on the Danube, and entrenched command posts beyond Budapest. The strain is visible. Pilots now contend with advanced enemy night fighters outfitted with radar and rockets. Engine failure becomes frequent, forced landings the norm. On September 15, Nadia Popova's plane is shot up by a Ju-88. She crash lands between Hungarian vineyards, rescued by local villagers aligned with Moscow. These harrowing tales thread the regiment's lore through every village liberated. The regiment's legendary status is now international. Their feats are reported on BBC Radio. Young partisans in Yugoslavia named their makeshift biplanes after the Night Witches. Soviet generals credit them with the success of several key partisan advances, noting their fearsome psychological effect on enemy morale. Yet, the greatest challenge awaits, the final year of war, where every sortie draws the regiment closer to victory, yet deadlier opposition. Distant thunder, the Hungarian crucible. Winter, 1944, German forces, battered and retreating, formed desperate lines in Hungary and eastern Austria, fortifying Budapest in anticipation of a Soviet siege. The Night Witches, now veterans of hundreds of sorties, are tasked with severing key supply arteries feeding Budapest's defense network. Each raid is fraught with peril, aerial mines now dot the approach routes, and flak is more intense than ever. The P2s, nearly obsolete by contemporary standards, are paradoxically well suited for these missions. Their slow speed and low altitude make them nearly invisible to radar, yet more vulnerable to ground fire. Pilots adapt by flying among valleys and using river fog as cover, memorizing landmarks anew after each sortie. In December, Nadia Popova leads a three-plane Christmas Eve raid targeting ammunition depots near the city's outskirts. Tracers stitch the sky, searchlights sweep madly. Young pilot Tatiana Sumarokova, only 20, is nearly brought down by a shell burst, her navigator wounded. She lands with half her rudder missing, surviving a close brush with death. The unit doctor, Elena Malagina, works through the night, her tent crowded with aviators burned, battered, and frostbitten. Yet the will to strike again remains unbroken, a creed forged through camaraderie and necessity. The Christmas attacks prove decisive, hampering Budapest's defenses and contributing to the city's eventual siege. The Soviet command, deeply aware of the psychological power of the witches, broadcasts propaganda touting their prowess. Meanwhile, German mess hall rumors whisper of sorcery and shadow wings, a testament to the terror these aviators bring. Race to the Danube, bridges of fire. January-February 1945, the 46th Regiment is ordered to support the Red Army's crossing of the Danube. Strategic bridges, rail and road, become the regiment's principal targets. Pilots often fly several missions per night, braving icy wind and relentless anti-aircraft fire. Bombs must be dropped with pinpoint accuracy, as missed hits could cripple the Soviet advance, or worse, kill their own troops. On January 30th, Nadia Popova and Olga Kravchenko undertake a legendary sortie, navigating by starlight. The pilots swoop mere meters above the river, releasing bombs on a German convoy trapped in mid-crossing. Flames leap into the night, illuminating the shattered towers. Engineers radio their thanks in coded transmissions. The Night Witches are lauded throughout the Second Ukrainian Front. Fatigue presses at every margin. Some have flown more than 900 missions each, facing frostbite, sleep deprivation, and the gnawing anxiety of impending peace. The regiment's ability to maintain effectiveness comes from rigorous discipline and a system of mutual aid. Aviators rotate roles, mechanics sleep in shifts, and unit cooks glean supplies from abandoned German messes. The German response grows more desperate as front lines collapse. Luftwaffe night fighters, now equipped with advanced radar, pursue the P2s, occasionally tracking their fuel exhaust. Ambushes become frequent. Pilots counter by flying erratic routes and often cutting engines entirely, gliding in spectral silence. Each bridge bombed, every train halted, hastens the inexorable Soviet march westward. Bitter glory, Vienna, and recognition. March-April 1945, as Vienna emerges in the specter of war, the Night Witches are charged with bombing supply depots east of the city, assisting Red Army armor as it snakes toward the Reich's heart. The regiment's reputation reaches fever pitch. Female devils in nightshirts, German propagandists sneer, though their soldiers continue to live in terror. This phase is marked by both triumph and toll. Vienna's thick spring fog proves an unexpected asset, offering cover against flak, yet increasing the danger of accidental collisions. On March 23, Irina Sabrova nearly clips a church steeple in a blind descent, saved only by her cold-trained reflexes and the cries of her navigator. Medals shower upon the bravest. Nadia Popova, Irina Sabrova, and Olga Kravchenko are nominated as Heroes of the Soviet Union, the highest distinction. These are celebrated not just in Moscow, but in Prague, Sofia, and liberated Vienna itself. Yet the cost of glory grows. Fresh recruits are scarce. Some planes crash from simple exhaustion of materials, and pilots cope with mounting post-traumatic stress. The Soviet military attempts to alleviate this with rest periods and group therapy, primitive by modern standards, but vital. Each aviator's bond becomes more precious, as each woman's face becomes a symbol of victory and sacrifice. Berlin beckons. Final sorties. Late April 1945, Berlin stands as the last bastion of the Third Reich. The Night Witches, now heralded as the 46th Taman Guards Night Bomber Regiment, participate in the final relentless push, launching selective raids over enemy barracks, transport hubs, and command posts on the city's outskirts. The air above Berlin is dense with the roar of guns and the crackle of burning embers. Supply chaos reigns. The regiment improvises at every turn. Mechanics convert abandoned German vehicles into equipment carriers, and pilots plan fuel-saving routes to maximize sortie counts. At night, the city glows with hellish fire, an inferno framing their biplanes as silhouettes in the dusk. On April 27, Nadia Popova leads what would be her last sortie, 2 bombs released over a railway yard, smoke blooming beneath her as she makes a low pass over Brandenburg Gate. Her plane is nearly brought down by small arms fire, but she lands after a harrowing chase, her navigator weeping with relief. In these final weeks, the tension is suffocating. While victory feels inevitable, each mission could be the last, a stray bullet, a malfunction, the unpredictable chaos of liberated Berlin. The regiment's record now totals more than 23,000 sorties. Their legend is carved into the battered earth below. Victory and silence, a dawn unbroken. May 8, 1945, Victory in Europe Day. The guns finally fall silent, Soviet banners ripple across the ruins of Berlin. The Night Witches, exhausted, battered, and changed forever, gather on a makeshift airfield outside the city. Many are quick to weep, others simply stare at the new horizon. Yevdokia Brzezinskaya, their steadfast commander, calls roll, a few names missing, forever engraved on memorial lists. Celebration comes quietly. Survivors wander among their battered P2s, touching wings lovingly, recalling every mission flown. Medals are pinned, stories recited, and songs echo gently into the dawn. For many, thoughts turn homeward, villages rebuilt, loved ones found or mourned, new futures uncertain. The Red Army's High Command issues official commendations. The 46th Regiment is immortalized as one of the Great Patriotic War's most valorous units. Local Berliners, still shocked by the unexpected presence of Russian women pilots, stare in disbelief. That sunrise, soft pink over the ruined city, is for the night witches both a triumph and a farewell to childhood. Their band will drift across the years as legends and reminders of courage earned in darkness. Some will become instructors, engineers, mothers, and writers, shaping memory and myth for generations to come. Homecoming, Echoes of War. June 1945, the war's end does not bring immediate restoration. For the night witches returning to Soviet villages, the world is changed beyond recognition. Homes are reduced to ruins, families splintered by years of terror and absence. Yet the women regroup, clutching the bonds forged on icy airstrips and in the thunder of combat. The Soviet government, eager to demonstrate revolutionary progress, recommends many night witches for post-war academic and professional training. Nadia Popova enrolls in a military flight academy as an instructor, sharing her expertise with fledgling pilots. Olga Kravchenko settles near Moscow, working as an engineer, teaching her children about the importance of grit and ingenuity. Some, like Yevdokia Brushanskaya, are fast-tracked into leadership positions within the burgeoning Soviet Air Force. Nevertheless, the transition is bittersweet. For months, they battle not just the aftermath of war, but the skepticism of a society slow to acknowledge the value of women in combat. Some struggle with nightmares, traces of trauma that linger in quiet moments. Others find solace in the camaraderie of former regiment members, gathering for reunions where stories are retold, medals polished, and lost friends remembered. The night witch's return is marked by a mix of pride and sorrow, a sense of accomplishment shadowed by memories of war's cost. Soviet officials recognize these women as heroes of the state, but many communities remain unsure, torn between awe at their achievements and ingrained tradition. The struggle for women's acceptance in military life continues, but the night witches stand as an enduring symbol, proof that courage knows no gender. Testimonies and taboos, confronting the past. By autumn 1945, celebratory parades sweep Moscow and Leningrad. Girls in blue overcoats march alongside tank crews and infantry, their presence a living emblem of the USSR's wartime mobilization. International journalists arrive, eager to interview women remembered for their daring witchery. BBC and American reporters probe their secrets, the biplane raids, engine failures, camaraderie, and grief. For many night witches, speaking about the war is cathartic but fraught. Some recount near escapes, Irina Sabrova's harrowing crash near Szeged or Olga Kravchenko's months of evading German patrols in Hungary. Others reflect on quieter nights, laughter in moonlit tents, urgent letters home, the hum of engines before battle. Yet official Soviet propaganda, intently focused on collective greatness, often brushes aside individual pain. Some night witches, particularly those who suffered mental trauma, find themselves quietly marginalized. A few are denied the highest honors, their achievements folded into anonymous state narratives. The struggle to be remembered as individuals, not merely part of wartime myth, becomes an unspoken battle for identity. Nevertheless, memoirs and articles begin to appear, authored by regiment veterans who refuse silence. Their stories reach foreign audiences, inspiring future generations of aviators, feminists, and soldiers. The night witches become a subject of study and admiration across both continents, proof that tales of war are stitched from personal threads, forever binding past to present. Enduring legacy, lessons in flight. The years slip by, Soviet reconstruction propels the USSR to new heights, and former night witches scatter across the vast republic. Some remain linked to aviation, teaching, innovating, and pushing for reform. Nadia Popova instructs scores of male and female pilots, her legend growing as her students recount stories of midnight raids and silent gliding over enemy lines. The regiment's tactics, low-altitude flying, engine cutting, surprise attacks, are formally studied in military academies. Soviet strategists credit the night witches with pioneering harassment bombing. Their adaptation of outdated technology into deadly precision inspires military theorists worldwide. In 1954, on the 10th anniversary of victory, former members gather for a grand reunion. Aged but proud, they wear medals on faded uniforms and recall the faces of those lost. Their contributions are increasingly acknowledged, statues are commissioned, museums assembled, and the names of fallen aviators etched into granite memorial walls. As the Cold War sets in, the Night Witches remain icons of a different era, an age when necessity smashed boundaries and ingenuity flourished under duress. Students, writers, and military historians collect their accounts, preserving evidence of extraordinary strength in ordinary women. Memory rekindled, from Soviet silence to world fame. Decades pass. By the 1970s and 1980s, with political change sweeping across Eastern Europe, the Night Witches, once shrouded in Soviet censorship, re-emerge as symbols of resilience and gender equality. Western journalists rediscover the regiment's history, publishing articles and documentaries that revive the story on a world stage. Nadia Popova, Olga Kravchenko, and their surviving comrades travel to international air shows and women's leadership conferences. They share their wartime experiences, drawing deep comparisons between the barriers they broke and the ones still to be shattered. They become mentors to younger generations, inspiring flight clubs and activism, giving voice to those for whom war's lessons are personal but universal. A 1989 film, funded jointly by Russian and British producers, tells the Night Witches' story to millions. Schools across Russia incorporate chapters on female pilots into history lessons, and museums compete to house the last surviving Patus, a symbol of the ingenuity and endurance that saved thousands of lives. Out of the ashes of conflict, the Night Witches become not just Russian icons but global heroines, a testament to the capacity for courage, unity, and innovation under the direst conditions. Their story, once half buried, now burns brightly across continents and cultures. Wings forever, a twilight immortal. Into the 21st century, the Night Witches' legend is undimmed. Survivors, now grandmothers, attend public commemorations, honored by presidents and prime ministers. Nadia Popova, the fearless ace, passes away in 2013. Her obituary appears in newspapers from Moscow to New York, celebrating a woman who flew 852 missions and lived to teach compassion as well as courage. The names of the regiment adorn airfields and schools. Poems are read, flights are dedicated to their memory. Young Russian cadets fly restored Patus, thrilling crowds with haunting nighttime exhibitions, the ghostly engines a living echo of distant thunder in the steppe. Technology has changed, but the Night Witches' legacy remains, an emblem and inspiration not only to aviators, but to all who face the unknown with only instinct, wit, and solidarity. The world remembers them not simply for the battles fought, but for a revolution in possibility, a reminder that determination can transform wood and canvas into iron and legend, and that unity in the face of terror illuminates even the darkest nights. Eternal, unbroken, the Night Witches soar, wings spread in memory, shadows against history's unending dawn.